as Pam was a legal rebel and Marco was a survivor, Mike is an insomniac. It says, what keeps me awake at night? Confessions of a chief software architect. But working for a global organization such as Thomson Reuters, I'm sure you do operate in multiple time zones and often late at night taking calls and thinking about the ins and outs of software architecture. And welcome to the stage, and I'd like to hear from you. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the introduction. It's always interesting to work in a global company which you end up with three offices, one which is based in the APA region, one which is based in the LA region, and one which is based on a plane. Well, that's how I typically refer to it as. So welcome to Lawtech. Hopefully within this very short time we'll be able to sort of cover off some of the challenges, or as I call the opportunities of how we sort of try and deal with technical architecture to help solve some of the challenges. First of all, introduction to myself. I'm based out of Northampton in England, or on a plane. I actually, for the last 7 days, I think I've been on a plane 50 hours, which is quite a considerable amount of time, not to have Wi-Fi access, which is really upsetting. But I actually was a founder and creator of Mattersphere as a product from a company called FWS. I was acquired in late October 2011. I'm a technologist and a musician. And I'm a father of two kids who it's pretty hard to do when you're traveling across the world to actually Skype to them at the right time in Australia. So I don't really like Australia for the time zones, but alternatively, it's something we obviously all like to work with our families. So my agenda today is what does keep me awake at night. I probably get less sleep than probably most people working in a global organization, and then I actually have challenges that I have to try and work towards to how I'm going to deal with it. Well, then talking about how we're looking to address these issues, and hopefully sort of give you an idea of how and what we want to talk about from the future of the lawyer's desktop. Oh, sorry, not desktop, mobile desktop. Maybe not mobile desktop, because the world's changing yet again. So I've tagged it as lawyer's ability to work whenever, wherever, and however. But unfortunately, marketing don't like long words like that, so God knows what that's going to become when marketing get a hold of it. So I've got three common themes that are challenges that I try and work within. The first one is around technology. We're in an ever-connected world, other than, unfortunately, on certain carriers. If I go in America, I seem to have Wi-Fi in every plane, but it didn't seem to happen when I was going over to Hong Kong. But the challenge now also is the amount of devices that allow us to connect to the internet and provide metrics and information that feed information, and how we work with technology is very different today as what we've had in the past. And again, this week, Apple have launched some product. They call it iWatch, and everyone's probably known about it for the last 12 months that they're going to release it, but it's actually finally been released. But wearable technologies and the ability to sort of manage how you interact with technology is changing yet again, and those things are challenges in a technology perspective that we're looking to try and work out how we want to manage that. Again, looking at the business, business actually has so many different dimensions across the globe of how things impact on how lawyers are working today. In the UK, we have alternative business structures and a lot of challenges that are coming from different types of organizations running law firms, and how does that work within the technology landscape, and there's sort of key drivers out of that. Additionally, risk and compliance. Today, there's so much more information that we need to mine and understand and appreciate, and how we actually want to leverage that information and deliver information to help us reduce some of our burdens around capturing the information, but then mining that information to help us deliver reduced insurance premiums and other technologies like that. And again, the LPO market growth is dramatic. I mean, there's a scale out of how much more work is going to be outsourced and how it's going to be managed and how you interact and work with that scenario. The next thing is around socialization. Today, Facebook has a considerable amount of users, with active users and mobile users being in the hundreds of millions of active daily users using the system. And again, if you go back 5 years, that number is just phenomenal. To think that 1/6 of the population is actually using Facebook is quite scary. But how do they learn? How do they actually work and then, work on development of building new products and new ways to monetize in Facebook is something I use as an analogy as to how we build software internally inside of Thomson Reuters. How does it help us think about being more agile in our delivery, and how do they bring to market? I was at San Francisco a year or so ago at Facebook, and with a bunch of architects sort of going into the mecca of seeing Facebook and actually speaking to sort of their chief architects and actually discussing how they release products. And Facebook today released 2 versions of Facebook a day, published throughout the organization, and everyone is using various features on that. But they've delivered software that they can turn on and off features and roll back and deliver software in such a different way that we took that as an opportunity to learn how we could change the way we deliver software and provide you with innovations and agility to get new software to market, new features to market that allow you to sort of become more innovative, but actually able to deliver solutions with hopefully some return on investment. And that's something which is really mind-blowing from the point of view of actually, I don't think anyone here would want to deploy an accounting system twice a day. If anyone does, I think they need to drink some more coffee. Okay, going forward also, the way socialization has worked from a sort of consumer perspective, I think the business-to-business consumer isn't quite in the same scope yet. And I see there's going to be dramatic change as the ability for products like Yammer and sort of instant messaging sort of spreads. If you go back a few years, email used to be very much within the office, and email not that many years ago didn't go between company to company. And I see those types of socializing network technologies are going to change dramatically as to how we want to leverage that. So often, you might hear this terminology about disruptive technology or innovation. I see there's a lot of challenges that we need to think about how we adapt our technology, but also how you as law firms have to embrace that to actually take to your market and your unique selling points. How do you actually deliver more mobility, more flexibility, and how you deliver law becomes more and more paramount to how you want to actually manage the approach. And there's a lot of things around disruptive technologies and how the world has changed, and I've got a few examples around that. So I alluded to earlier about PC and email. It doesn't take that many years to go back when WordPerfect Office was the email client which worked well inside the office, and I'm probably showing you a bit about my age now. But WordPerfect Office was great if you wanted to email between 6 people in the firm who actually use WordPerfect Office, and the rest of the world didn't actually have any collaboration within that. But once email sort of became ubiquitous, it changed dramatically how you communicate. Faxes used to be the way a lawyer would communicate. Now, you've got a lawyer shouting at you because the email hasn't automatically appeared at the recipient's end, and why hasn't it arrived there? And Google's down or Yahoo's down. It's like, well, no shock. There's someone else in the middle who's actually managing that detail. So email is just a great example of disruptive technology for how you deliver and manage communication. Again, mobility, today, my challenge I would suggest is that, the mobile world and ever-connected world actually brings a new way of working and actually interoperating with your work. I'm sort of, as I say, I'm an insomniac, so most things at night, and I'm sure pretty much everyone in the room here, I'm sort of confessing for everyone here. But actually, the last thing I do at night is say goodnight to my wife, and I look at my phone. It's actually quite depressing to think that's my life, is I actually check my email before I go to sleep and hope that I've actually finished off everything to go to sleep, hopefully without any problems going on. And then the first thing I do when I wake up is look at my phone. Oh, and then say hi to my wife. And I think that's actually a good example of where the world has changed to how you interoperate with mobile devices today. Email is one element. It's a consumer element of data, but it's not a doing element typically. You can reply to an email, but typically it gives you a headache if there's some things that you need to manage, but that's the way you work and look at mobile devices. So that's a big impact of how you work today. I'm going to put the cloud computing into the mix. I think cloud is one of the most abused words in legal software technology today. It's a fluffy thing which has rain in it. And actually, I came over here and Marin suggested that it never rains in Australia, and he lied. I actually arrived, and the days I actually had off to try and adjust for jet lag, it rained here. So I'm pretty disappointed that I've come all over here, and my wife's telling me it's a heat wave in the UK. So that's rare in the UK, so I've missed it. But cloud computing, it again is a disruptive technology in how you want to deliver IT services, whether it's infrastructure or it's platform services. They're all key pillars for how you want to build out operationally. And what and how does that impact as a business to actually manage security challenges in that, as well as also taking the point of, does it actually save me money in the long run? And I'm sure various people will have different calculations and approaches to that, but cloud computing is a key driver of how we want to manage that, and I'll explain a little bit of how Thomson Reuters are addressing that problem. And again, one thing I sort of highlight on here around internet shopping and Amazon, in the UK, obviously we've all had a recession, and there's a lot of big companies and well-known names which have gone bust. And principally, some of the reasons they've gone bust is because they have a lot of real estate and they haven't evolved through the way that market has changed how you interact with and purchase things online. So whether that's internet music and magazines or videos, you download and stream them from Netflix. Albeit I read an article which said that Australia doesn't have Netflix here, but there's actually 200,000 subscribers who are actually based in Australia illegally downloading from Netflix, which is interesting. But it just highlights the point that the way people want to get to that data isn't to go down to the local Woolworths. I don't know if Woolworths existed over here, but down to your Woolworths shop and go and buy a video. It doesn't exist. It just has changed, and they haven't adapted to work that way. So that's another thing I think from a law firm parody. How do you deliver law? How do you actually approach law when you're going to have alternative business structures or corporations that are going to provide different innovative ways to delivering legal services that you as a law firm have to now start to either embrace or innovate with, and hopefully we're going to have some stories to help provide some solutions to that problem. And again, going back to social networking, the communication challenge today, if you look at telephony, today you have telephone bundles with minutes in and text bundles and data bundles. My business partner's daughter often used to come around to the house and have her friends come around with her, and what was really fascinating is they never actually spoke to each other. They just Facebooked or Skyped or texted each other, and they're sitting next to each other. They don't talk to each other, they just talk online. And it sort of highlights the point again that, telephony and companies like that haven't really adapted to think about actually they don't want to physically phone each other. In certain generations, it's not, they don't go and pick up the phone, how are you doing? They'll Skype each other, or they'll have a text message. It's just a fascinating change in the way they use communication today. Arguably, some people could see it as a backward step. Personally, I think it's just the evolution of how people want to interact, and it's just fascinating how that's changing. No different to using Facebook to actually post what you're doing. I think parents today know more about their children than they've ever known, sometimes for the things they don't want to know, but actually going forward, I think that also highlights the point of privacy. A lot of people get really scared in certain generations about how we deal with privacy, but actually if you go back to the younger generation now, they seem more than happy to expose information, which is probably inappropriate in most cases, but it's actually fascinating how people have sort of got to accept that that's just the norm. Obviously, there are sort of celebrities who are quite unhappy that certain things have been hacked recently, and maybe that's something a little bit wider than they expected it to be for sharing, maybe too much sharing maybe. But that just highlights again the challenge around security as things are adapt and go forward. So to refine around the business challenges, we talk about alternative business structures and how there are corporations now sort of taking, like Tesco's in the UK, I don't know if Tesco's exists in Australia region or the APAC region, but a supermarket offers now banking services, it offers insurance services, and it offers now law services. And to a certain extent, lawyers in the UK have adapted in a very poor way. Their logic is, well, they've always come to us, we're never going to change that. And actually, I think that's actually a telling problem that I think technology can help solve that in certain ways. One is the sort of a ubiquitous access of 24/7 ability to get online and actually instruct my lawyer, facilitate information like that. So you can interact in different time to your traditional 9 to 5 o'clock. Lawyers always having bank holidays and having the extra day off the day after in the UK, which is a common thing. It's just they've got to change. They've got to start opening or providing access to their lawyer a lot more. So that's an example of using technology to provide portals of access, but also facilitating the ability to interact, whether it be instant messaging or video messaging. Just different ways of working can give you that unique edge against what could be your traditional sort of Tesco's or your shopping services delivery of law. Again, risk and compliance concerns. To us, risk and compliance is probably one of the biggest challenges technically, how we want to improve our technology to log and audit information, but actually to provide information to help you deliver raw return to reduction of your insurance premiums and also to avert risk. Today, it's one of those things which I think has got harder and harder as the years have gone by, as to people needing to be more accountable for what's actually going on inside a law firm, whether it be government compliance or whether it actually be client request. We want to know more about what's going on with the transaction. We want to actually know why certain things have happened. But then you've got indemnity insurances which have gone up and up in premium cost because you've not been able to report and give specific information comparing your peers as to the type of work and risk factors that you have as a business against maybe someone else who's doing similar business but actually has more potential risk. And that's something we're really sort of trying to sort of remove on and sort of move forward for. Again, accessibility, providing client access and, innovative ways of actually interacting with our clients is really important. We see, client wants to be up at 2 o'clock in the morning and ordering from Amazon. Well, maybe that client also wants to be up at 2 o'clock in the morning having an argument. Not that I have any arguments with my wife. I love my wife very much. But if I wanted to have a divorce at 2 in the morning, I could be quite, and send an email and suggest my client needs to, my law firm needs to start working on a case for me, as an example. Probably a bad example, but the highlight is that I should be able to start doing some work in the middle of the night. That's what I can do with Amazon. Maybe I should be thinking of how I do it with law. Again, I'll skip over this a little bit more. Facebook is obviously an interesting phenomenon in the sense that when it was IPO'd, obviously, forget the point of how the stock market got impacted by all of the challenges of running a huge impact of an IPO process going through the stock exchange. But the actual interesting thing to Facebook of the price was actually they couldn't monetize, or they weren't able to sort of show Wall Street a light of how they're going to make some money out of all this user traffic. And one thing I was really impressed with Facebook is how they've been adapting their software model and design model to actually provide the ability to sort of monetize out through mobile. And over the last few quarters, their releases of numbers over that have far outstretched what has been asked of from Wall Street or expected from Wall Street. And again, that sort of gives me a little bit of an understanding as to how we think we need to work with the software design. How do we provide agility in our delivery internally that we can then deliver to our clients to make sure that they get the best of solutions, but without the friction of having to go through painful upgrade cycles, and make sure that they can keep on top of the cadence of releases. So that's one of the internal projects that we're really focusing down on. Like Facebook, can we release more frequently, but actually deliver innovative new features that allow you to get on and actually get results out of our products and our software. And again, working on changing habits, it's really critical to understand, people will change how they want to work, and we need to think about when that changes. Picking up an iPad or an iPhone or an iOS device, sorry, I've just said every Apple product specifically, but, or Windows Phone, let's go throw some Microsoft into it as well. Picking up those devices, what do I want to do with that? And, we're working to not just consume information in those devices, how can I do work with it? So when I pick up my device to do the last thing at night, I might want to look at certain things that have been brought to my attention so I can actually action on them. How do I then facilitate that? And, one of our technology stacks is something called Workspaces to try and orchestrate and build a solution that orchestrates all of that information together and then provide you the ability to act on it. So it's changing habits as to how you want to work. So the addressing element of these issues, and this is a marketing slide, so apologies in advance, but basically we have 4 pillars. We have experience, productivity, intelligence, and connections. EPIC. And this is our internal strategy and our tagline that we use for pretty much all of our design principles to date. So as we go forward, what we want to try and do is help improve the agility of the lawyer. The ability for a lawyer to be able to interact with their information systems, but seamlessly without having to think about navigating through 3, 4 different applications, but providing a level of persona management that focuses specifically on that user. So if I'm a managing partner, just give me managing partner related information. I don't need to see specific information that doesn't make sense to my domain. So, giving me top level information about a client doesn't relate to maybe some bank accounts and various other things, which is going to have no relevance to that specific persona. So we're focusing on around how we design the user experience around the persona. Refresh the user experience, try and give more simplification around how you use a solution and then deliver that information in where they want to run it. So whether it's on a mobile device, a web device inside of Office, it's all about defining how you want to present it, but then actually exposing all of those information systems transparently to how the user actually wants to get to that data. And again, mobile first is a key driver of this technology. Workspace is delivered as a mobile first citizen and then a web client. Principally around the logic of if we can cover the mobile and actually provide the security gates and all the challenges around mobility, we actually have a good return on investment that will be standing for an internal web-based client and or a client portal access point. Again, removing the data silos and the actual information systems. Every customer in here probably has a multitude of systems and legacy databases, or databases. Again, going around the world, you have to pronounce things slightly differently. But if you take the sort of silos of information, how do I expose that without having to facilitate going onto my desktop client, going into different applications, logging in, navigating to the matter or navigating to the client? We want to try and remove that and present that in one unified way. And also open up our platform. You know, traditionally, Thomson Reuters wasn't always seen as someone who sort of opened up the infrastructure to allow other people to collaborate with in our ecosystem. That's actually something we're really changing quite dramatically around opening up their ability to interact. And you know, we're working with our elite partners to facilitate the ability to expose other data from other systems inside of our ecosystem and provide a real innovative way of actually delivering that through mobility. Again, talking about cloud, again, I hate the word and the terminology of cloud because ultimately I think everyone has a different definition around it. But one of the key things we're trying to do is use a hybrid approach. You know, where does the cloud make sense in the ecosystem? And certain things like elastic computing is actually a really great example in accounting. Everyone who runs an accounting system typically has some peak points and troughs of where the usage of solutions are. And today, what we do is we spec out a solution which is great for those 2 hours or 2-day windows that are doing massive processing cycles, and then the rest of the time the system's ticking over doing nothing. And elastic computing is really good about how we want to manage that, and taking advantage of that going forward is going to be really critical. So embracing it where it's relevant and supplying innovations to take advantage of that is a critical success point. Also, managing security. How do we manage the Snowden effect? You know, there's a real big case going on for Microsoft, who are actually in contempt of court today, I believe, for not providing information to the US government. I think that's going to be a really big thing. All of us in this room are going to be wanting to know the output of that, because where we want to feel comfortable hosting our data is actually going to be stepped on by that result. So, you know, that's something we definitely all need to sort of keep an eye on, that case specifically. Again, providing insight and big data, you know, we need to, and we owe it to our clients to provide a common platform that people can build on and start thinking about how they want to provide insight to the data. So Thomson Reuters actually have a massive information that we need to start exposing and providing collaboratively alongside our financial and our business productivity assets. And that's something else we're looking really heavily to try and bring that exposure to information to allow things like PI firms to feel comfortable that they can understand peer monitor information, which is another product of Thomson Reuters that allows you to compare against your peers what your work ethic is and what type of work types you're doing, and really bring that information going forward. Again, bringing external data sources and governmental sources and actually providing routes to get, route information from external sources and bring that together collaboratively inside of your MI information, but also providing insight for business intelligence. So we want to provide insight and awareness. And again, providing, a key driver is also to look at how we sort of deliver things like CRM. How do we autofill information without needing the lawyer to do things? We've got some great technology in ContactNet that mines information from Exchange to work out the relationships that you may have that you don't know other people in the business know about. So I talked to someone at Microsoft, and I've got, you know, a friend who I've known for many years, but then I can actually look, because of this information we bring through this product called ContactNet, I can actually find out there's someone else in the company who also knows John, or knows someone who knows John. And that's great. How do we bring that information and fill that into our CRM without actually having to touch the system? And that's something really quite cool as we're doing that forward. Again, conscious of time here, you know, how do we aggregate information and bring things together like tasks? I want to actually have all of my information around tasks. There's a multitude of task systems that we run internally, like HR systems, accounting systems, matter management systems. Workspace is all about trying to aggregate all of that task system, bring it into mobility, so I've got a unified list of all my tasks, but then actually able to take those tasks and actually say, I want to do something with that task now. So the last thing at night, I can go to my email, then go to my task list and say, actually, I want to chase on that letter, I want to refine on that information, I want to conclude that transaction, I want to, you know, do an approval on some check requests, get it all done without me having to log into the base system and keep going forward there. And again, just to finalize, you know, to simplify, personalize, and innovate around exposing relevant and appropriate data where it's needed, the persona management, securing the data. I haven't really talked too much about security. There's a few sessions around security. Security is often the most, interesting conversation I have with CIOs and risk officers is actually the paranoia around security, but they've got a briefcase with files which they're taking on a train and forget the file, and the file's actually more open than actually the iPad, which has some level of security on it. And again, it's the scope of depth of security against reality of how you can actually manage it and maintain that. So we've got a lot of work that we've done around security, but it's, again, another example of, I think, the ever-changing world of digital highways of being able to access information and the Snowden effect impacting there. Again, collating the data from all of the line of business applications without actually needing to log into those systems. We provide a great model of providing not only Elite systems, but document management systems collaboratively on a mobile device. So you only have one mobile touch to actually get to all of your business information, and you don't have to switch between different apps to actually get to that information, and that's really quite nice. And again, finally, around workflows. Workflows, again, is an abused product, very terminology-wise. We've got the mindset around covering product workflows, device workflows, and company workflows. How do I work across my business-to-business relationships as a workflow? So how do I interact and work with my GCs? How do I work about my devices? I'm on my iPad and I've got my desktop. Can I actually work collaboratively across my devices? And we've got some really cool technology to help deliver that. And then the final one I'll talk about is product workflows. How do I work between different products in my ecosystem and actually provide a connection workflow between all of the systems? And that's something we're doing within Workspace as well, not just to Elite products, but to actually other products as well. So responsibility is to deliver on our EPIC principles, embrace through innovation, listen and adapt to disruptive technologies, and look to think about failing quick, working adaptively. It is something that, in our industry, we've got to become available to become more agile, but also learn to fail quickly and move on. It's very quick in succession to actually think about going a longer cycle. Let's go deeper, and actually sometimes you need to stop and restart and look at it again. And that's something we're doing internally in our development processes. And my final tagline is provide solutions, not answers. Today, I think there's too many people who sort of say, well, this is an answer to that, this is an answer to that. Actually, I think we need, and we're looking to help deliver a solution. The solution is an ecosystem that allows you to innovate as a business and bring unique selling points to help you sell to your customers or your clients through technology, but also through the IP within your law firms. Thank you for that, and I think we've run out of time anyway. So thanks a lot.